Hello everyone, welcome back. I got another tutorial for you today. Since the game fully released, a bunch of new buildings were released alongside the game. Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we got another tutorial for workers and resources. Since the game fully released recently, a bunch of new buildings and a few things were tweaked. So I decided to play around with tourism, one of the topics that I haven't really played around with in this game. And what I found was quite interesting. So let's delve right into it. Tourism can be tourism tourism is definitely an underused function in the game. And it's a really good way to make money early on with minimal investment. Let's see how we're gonna do that. If you're playing on a realistic mode with research enabled, you will need to research tourism to get access to it. To do that, you will go into the house of the party. If you're playing on realistic mode with research enabled, you will need to research tourism to get access to the tourists. In order to do that, you need to do the following research in the HQ of the party university. Tourism analysis, which will enable tourism analysis, which will begin the chain. Advanced hotel standards, this is optional, but it's good to have because it unlocks the better hotels for you, and we will explain later why that's very important. Tourist visa for Soviet countries and for Western countries. Completing each one of those gives you access to Soviet tourists and Western country tourists. And lastly, we have the advertising in Soviet countries and Western countries, which boosts the amount of tourists that want to visit your republic. Okay, now let's see how we're gonna bring tourists in. When you finish with the research, it's time to start bringing tourists into your republic. This can happen in a number of ways. First, you can get them from the custom house by sending a bus or a train to pick them up. It can be done with a helicopter, plane, or ships that have a connection to either a Western or Soviet country. Now, tourists, when they get to your republic, they have a number of needs, and those can be very similar to your regular citizens, namely food, alcohol, and entertainment. And they are negatively impacted by high prices in buildings and pollution. Now, let's talk a little bit about the mechanics of tourists. So, every tourist has a few additional attributes to your regular citizens. Namely, where are they from? So, this one's from the Soviet countries. What's their budget? How much are they able to spend in your republic? How long they plan on staying on your republic, which is this trip duration in days. So, this one will stay for 11 days. And how much money have they spent so far? Next, if you go into your economy and trade, tourism section, you will get a few more stats about your tourists. So if we go at all, tourists intended to enter your republic. This is how many people want to enter your republic. So we can see that okay, if we go look on our economy and trade tab, then select tourism, we will get access to some additional information. What is this information? We have the same subset of information for Soviet and Western. Now, let's look at Soviet, for example, in this republic. In this republic, we can see that since the beginning of this map, so a little over a year, we had 67,000 tourists that wanted to visit our republic and give us their money. Here we can see how many of those tourists we brought into our republic. So almost 40,000 out of the 67. Why is that? Well, not enough buses to bring them in, or not enough transportation to get them where they need to go. Tourists that ended their trip prematurely. This is when you get a tourist from the custom house or any other source, you take them to your republic, and there is no available hotel to house them. In that case, they have to stop their trip prematurely because they cannot stay outside. Tourist return. Now, when a tourist has a great time, they are very happy to come back to your republic. And in this example, 36,000 of them are willing to come back. Why is that important? So the game generates a number of tourists every so often. The happier they are, you get an additional amount that wants to come back. So this starts snowballing, and you get to the point that you have an incredible amount of tourists that want to visit your republic because it's great, right? And they want to give you their hard-earned cash, whether that's dollars or rubles. Now, let's talk a little bit about tourist pathing. Every tourist will begin their day in the hotel, and then they will try to accommodate their needs. Now, let's talk a little bit about the path that tourists take. So, once they're in your republic and they are assigned to a hotel, they will begin their day in that hotel. They will try to accommodate their needs first in the hotel before moving to the next destination. So, let's say, for this example, the citizen requires food and meat, which he can get from the hotel. He will get that before he moves into a different building. This one additionally needed sports, so since he cannot accommodate that into the hotel, he will walk to the closest destination, whether that's a sports building or a bus that can take him to that, the same way a citizen would. Now, besides the regular things like food, meat, attractions, sports, and culture, tourists will also visit other buildings and have other demands as well, like electronics. While it is important to give them everything that they want, sometimes you can skip that. But if you want them to be really happy and very happy to come back, give them access to electronics as well. Generally, tourists will prioritize buildings with an attraction score. So if we look at this hotel, for example, it has an attraction score. But if we look at, let's say, a hospital doesn't have an attraction. So when, for example, this tourist is sick, they will go to the hospital, they will count as a need, but they won't get any sort of attraction because it's not an attractive thing to them, but they will still utilize it. The same is true for things like a small shopping center. So if they need to buy some clothes or some electronics, in this example, they will go visit this. This has no attraction score. They will still fulfill their demand, so you will get the money, but they won't be happy about it. Now a little bit about the rating calculation and the satisfaction. Each time a tourist satisfies a need, they keep a counter of the rating based on the building that they utilized. For example, if they satisfy their need for alcohol at a 4-star hotel, they will register 4 stars. If they can accommodate multiple needs at the same place, so for example, in this hotel they can get food, alcohol, and meat, so that's 3 needs, they will register 4 stars for each of those needs. But if for whatever reason, let's say this place has no alcohol, they will not record the 4 stars for this, they will go into a different building. So let's say a 2-star bar. In that case, they will record the 2 stars from that bar to satisfy their need. At the end of their trip, all of those ratings are calculated and tallied up to get the average trip score. 3 and higher makes them more likely to come back to your republic. Under 3 makes them less likely to almost unlikely to come back to your republic. Now let's talk a little bit about the income and the expect. Now let's talk a little bit about income and expect. Now let's have a chat about the income and the expenses of tourism. First of all, this is based on observation at the moment. There is no actual documentation of it anywhere in the game, so take it with a grain of salt. But generally, considering that you keep the prices on their base level, which is 3, staying at a hotel for a night gives you $2. Every need that they accommodate every day, so for example, food and sports in this example, this will generate another 2, 1 for each. And then if they go visit, and if they go buy a high value item like clothes or electronics, that will be 2 for each one of them. Obviously, adjusting the prices will earn you more, but will decrease their satisfaction and the trip rating. Now, if you want to run a successful tourist republic and maximize your profit margin, you definitely need to get your own production of fuel, food and meat, alcohol, and clothes. Electronics are good to have but not necessary since they're a bit more complicated to generate, especially early game, and the amount of electronics that they generally seek is not that high. So you can get away with buying it. Same thing with your citizens. Now, some extra things that are important to note. Tourists are affected by your radio station and your TV the same way your citizens are. So if you want to encourage alcohol, you can encourage alcohol. They will seek more alcohol more frequently, so they will utilize that service more. Or if you want to promote more sports, they will visit your sports avenues more often. They will visit your sports venues more often. They will visit your sports venues more often. Hotel rating affects the amount of workers per tourist needed. So a worker with basic productivity can support 7 tourists in a 2-star hotel, while the same worker in a 4-star hotel can only accommodate 3. When you select transportation for your tourists, make sure you edit the line to only pick up tourists. So you go into this section over here and you say, I do not want to load any workers, any students or passengers, just tourists. Because the last thing you want to do is pick up foreign workers from this custom house or any other border connection and bring them to your city. And last but not least, for those interested in the waste produced by tourists, hotels produce a 60-40% ratio of biological waste and mixed burnable waste, which includes the waste produced by the workers. And attractions, especially those that serve alcohol or any other product, produce plastics and metal scrap waste as well, which adjust the ratio to 60% biological, 30% mixed, 5% metal, and 5% plastic. And now you may ask, how much money does tourists really make? Well, let's have a look at this little example republic. We began this game in 1970. In a year, we have generated almost 2 million with a city of about 7,000, 8,000 people just from tourism. So if we look at last month, we generated about 170,000 rubles. I hope that gives you enough information to start incorporating tourism in your republic and get a better understanding of how it works. Thanks everyone for watching. See you on the next one. Bye bye.